You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the first part of What If Naruto Enters Familiar of Zero. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Hussbek on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. In the clearing of a forest located in Konoha or the Hidden Leaf Village, a boy sits reading a large scroll. His name is Uzumaki Naruto, a pariah of the village. He has been abused and mistreated ever since he was born. He aspires to become Hokage so that he could protect the people he cares about as well as gain recognition from the people around him. However, he failed the graduation exam at the Ninja Academy twice, with yesterday being his due to not being able to properly Bunshin no Jutsu. One of his teachers, Mizuki, told him of a makeup exam which involves taking a scroll from the Hokage's office and learning a technique in order to pass. Well, I was able to learn the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, but maybe learning another technique would increase my chances of passing this makeup exam, thought Naruto, who was wearing a rust-orange jumpsuit that just screams, "I am right here. Kill me," and green goggles with blue ninja sandals. Naruto was about to look through the scroll once more when he felt someone come into the clearing. It was his other teacher from the academy, Umino Irika. "Looks like you found me, Irika-sensei. I only had time to learn one jutsu from the scroll," said Naruto with a foxy grin. "He has been practicing out here until he wore himself out," thought Irika, looking at the blonde. "Anyway, if I perform the jutsu properly then you would let me pass, right?" "Those are the rules, anyone who learns a jutsu from the scroll passes," said Naruto with excitement. Irika looked shocked. "Who told you about this?" he asked with tension. "Mizuki-sensei told me about it. I thought that since you are here, you knew as well," said Naruto. Hearing a sound from behind, Irika pushed Naruto out of the way only to be hit by kunai which was thrown. "Like I thought, you planned all this, Mizuki." The said ninja laughed out loud. "You were always too smart for your own good, Irika." Now Naruto hand over the scroll. What's going on?" asked Naruto, looking at the two teachers in confusion. "Naruto. Don't let him have the scroll. It contains the forbidden techniques that could destroy our village. He used you so that he could steal it," said Irika. "Don't listen to him, Naruto. Irika has been keeping secrets from you, him along with the other villagers that concerns you. Don't you wonder why they hate you so much?" said Mizuki with an evil smile. "Mizuki, don't tell him. It's a village secret." "What is this secret that everybody knows except me?" asked Naruto, desperately wanting to find out why he was hated. "It's a secret that you should never be told," said Mizuki with his smile growing wider. "Mizuki, don't tell him," cried out Irika. "What is it? Tell me already," said Naruto. "No one's supposed to tell you that you have the Kyubi no Kitsune sealed inside you. You are the one who attacked the village 12 years ago, the one who killed Irika's parents. You are the nine-tailed fox," shouted out Mizuki, laughing maniacally. Naruto just stood there stunned at being told the reason why he was hated. He could find sense in the reason they mistreated him. "Die! You demon!" shouted out Mizuki before throwing a large shuriken at Naruto, who was still in shock, to move until Irika tackled him to the ground and received the shuriken on his back. "Why did you save me? You were supposed to hate me as well," said Naruto, looking at Irika in surprise. "It's because I know how it feels to be alone. Like you, I used to play pranks and fool around just to get attention, but deep inside I felt alone, which is why I wanted to be there for you," said Irika amidst tears. Naruto looked at him for a moment before running off with the scroll. "Naruto! Naruto, wait!" Irika called out amidst tears. "You are so pathetic, Irika, crying for that demon. Didn't you see those eyes? That are that of a beast," said Mizuki with a smirk. Iruka pulled the shuriken from his back as he got to his feet. You're wrong, Naruto isn't like that. He threw it only for Mizuki to lean to one side for it to fly past and hit a tree. You're such a joke. I am going to kill the demon BRT and get the forbidden scroll before I come back to kill you, said Mizuki before taking off. Iruka gritted his teeth in anger. I won't let you. Naruto was running through the forest when Iruka came beside him. Naruto, don't listen to Mizuki's lies. Pass me the scroll so that we can keep it safe from him, said Iruka. Naruto leapt at Iruka and slammed him to the ground before sitting down and leaning against a tree. Iruka disappeared in a puff of smoke to reveal Mizuki. How did you know that I wasn't the real Iruka? Naruto smirked at him before disappearing in a puff of smoke as well to reveal Iruka. That's because I am the real Iruka. Nearby was Naruto hiding behind a tree with the scroll in his hands. Why do you defend that demon BRT? If you were the Kyuubi, I am sure that you would keep the scroll for its power, said Mizuki. Yeah, you're right, said Iruka. Naruto bent his head down. Like I thought Iruka sees me like that just like the rest, thought Naruto, and was about to fall into despair when he heard Iruka's next words. The demon would do that, but not Naruto. He knows the feeling of pain and is a hard worker if you look through his clumsiness. He is a ninja of the Hidden Leaf Village. He is Uzumaki Naruto, said Iruka with sincerity in his voice, to which Naruto was struggling to hold back his tears. I thought to kill you later, but now I've my mind. You will die now, said Mizuki, running in to finish Iruka until Naruto jumped in and landed a headbutt into him, knocking him back. If you as much as take a step anywhere near Iruka-sensei, I will kill you. Naruto declared with a glare leveled at Mizuki. Smart talk, demon BRT, I can finish you off in one move, said Mizuki. Just try it, team. I'll return it 1,000 times more, said Naruto while crossing his index fingers before crying out the jutsu. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. A large plume of smoke appeared and cleared to reveal copies of himself. Iruka was shocked that his student was able to use a high-ranked jutsu with no issue. Those aren't illusions but solid clones. He's mastered an extremely advanced jutsu, thought Iruka with pride. Mizuki stumbled backwards in shock at the sight of the many copies of the hated boy who were taunting him from all directions. What is this? He fell back on his rear end with a growing fear in his heart. If you're not coming here to fight me, then we're just gonna have to come over and get you, said Naruto with a mischievous grin which is shared by his copies as they charged at the traitor. Ayawaha. Mizuki could only scream in fear and soon pain as he was victim to a serious beatdown, and by the end of it all, he laid on ground with swollen cheeks and a black eye, all the while twitching. Naruto stood there rubbing the back of his head with a sheepish grin. He, sorry about that. I kinda went overboard with that one. Are you okay, Iruka-sensei? Yeah, I'll be fine once I get to the hospital, said Iruka. He wants to surpass all of the Hokage, and I'm starting to believe that he might do it. The wounded teacher called out to his student. Naruto, could you come over for a minute? I've got something to give you, and bring the scroll along too. Gotcha, Iruka-sensei. Naruto happily walked over to pick up the scroll and strap it to his back and was passing by Mizuki when he paused for a moment and turned to look at the chunin, particularly the headband, and recalled what Iruka said earlier when they were eating ramen at Ichiraku's. Naruto reached over and took the headband off with a frown. After what you did, you don't even deserve to be a ninja anymore. He resumed his jog to Iruka. Suddenly, a green portal appeared behind Naruto with tendrils stretching out towards him unawares. Iruka's eyes widened in alarm as he called out to the blonde in panic. Naruto, look behind you. Iruka yelled in warning. Naruto blinked in confusion and turned around to gasp in shock as the tendrils quickly wrapped around his arms and proceeded to pull him towards the portal. The blonde tried to resist by pulling away, but he was gradually losing ground against it. Grr, let go of me. Iruka tried to help, but his wounds were preventing him from moving quickly. Naruto, hang on, I'm coming. Iruka limped towards Naruto, who looked back with eyes of fear as part of his body was already in the portal. Naruto stretched a hand out with Iruka doing the same to grab on, but the tendrils gave one last yank to pull him in completely. Iruka-sensei. Naruto. Iruka cried out in horror as he watched his student disappear before his very eyes. This wasn't supposed to happen. He wanted to give his own headband and graduate him to being a ninja and begin his journey to becoming Hokage. He collapsed to his knees with tears flowing down his cheeks at the thought of never being able to see the blonde ninja to be. In the courtyard of what appears to be a large castle of Western design, there were a large group of children who were accompanied by an elderly man. They seemed to be wearing uniforms which consists of white shirts, black pants/skirts with long black capes worn over their shoulders. The man who is apparently the teacher spoke up, "Finally, today is the day of the summoning ritual. This is the first test since you advance to the second year and the sacred first day where you meet your familiars with whom you will spend your lives as nobles." Amongst the students is a girl with long pink hair who was clenching a small brown stick with a nervous look on her face. She then felt a presence behind her and turned to see a taller girl with dark skin and long red hair. "I'm looking forward to the amazing familiar you are going to summon," said the redhead, making melons bounce in a teasing manner. The pinkette looked away with a frown. "Leave me alone." Soon the rituals were underway as numerous students summoned creatures of different shapes and sizes. Many were content with their new partners while others were a bit disappointed in what they summoned but would eventually get used to them. "Now, was that everyone?" asked the teacher, having seen a majority of the students summon their familiars but wanted to make sure that no one was left out. "No, we still have Miss Valier to go," said the redhead, having summoned a fire salamander earlier before and was quite taken with it. She turned toward said Pinkette who was trying to hide away from her and the others in general. She stepped forward to the center and along the way was hearing the whispers of the students. "That's Louise the Zero. What will she summon? There's no way she can summon anything. We'll just have another explosion, nothing else." She silently ignored them all and went to stand in the middle of the courtyard. "After that boasting, you'll summon something more amazing than this little guy, right Louise?" said the redhead tauntingly. "Of course I will." Louise retorted. She clenched her wand in determination then raised it above her head. "My servant that exists somewhere in this universe. My divine, appealing and powerful familiar. I wish and assert from the bottom of my heart answer my guidance." Then she brought it down to point ahead of her. Boom! There was a loud explosion and smoke was everywhere. The students coughed from the smoke all the while murmuring about how the result was as they expected due to having witnessed this so many times before. They waited for the smoke to clear away and reveal what they were expecting, which certainly wasn't what they thinking it would be, especially for Louise. Laying before her is a boy with spiky blonde hair with markings on his cheeks akin to that of a cat or a fox as he wears a rust-orange jumpsuit that just screams, "I am right here. Kill me," and green goggles with sandals, and there was a large scroll strapped to his back. A human. Those clothes, it looks like a peasant. Yeah, a peasant, no doubt about it. Louise's eyes were twitching in disbelief. "This is divine, appealing and powerful." She saw the boy open his eyes and blinked a few times as he sat up from the ground and began to look around in confusion. "Where am I? What happened?" Naruto was trying to come up with a self-explanation with what's going on as he looked at the people around him, though the one who caught his attention the most was the girl with pink hair standing before him. "You don't understand our language?" asked the girl. Naruto shook his head to affirm her question. "Ha ha ha ha. Nothing less from someone who puts up a huge front. To think that you would summon up a peasant." The redhead laughed and was soon joined by the others. "I just made a small mistake," said Louise. Nothing less from Louise the Zero. "A result that meets everyone's expectations," a fattish student chortled. Naruto took note of all this, though he couldn't understand what they were saying, but he was getting the idea that the students were laughing at the girl. Something he found to be all too similar to what he had to go through back at the academy. "Mr. Colbert," said Louise. "What is it?" asked the teacher. "Can I try the summoning again?" "I can't allow that." "Why?" "This ritual is a sacred one that decides the mage's entire life. Trying a second time is a blasphemy against the ritual itself. Whether you like it or not, this boy has been chosen as your familiar," said Colbert sternly. "I have no idea what's going on, but I gotta find my way back home and make sure that Iruka-sensei is okay." Naruto stood up and began to leave, but Louise grabbed him by the collar and pulled back to the ground. But I've never heard of using a peasant boy as a familiar, said Louise, earning laughs from the students again. I will not allow exceptions, peasant boy or not. Continue with the ritual, said Colbert. Yeah. With this? Louise poked at Naruto with her wand, annoying him to smack it away with a frown. Oi, quit poking me. Naruto retorted despite the language barrier. Hurry up, or you really will be expelled, said Colbert sternly, ready to go through with his statement. All right, Louise sighed in resignation and approached Naruto before kneeling before him. Huh? What are you going to do? Naruto was confused at all this. Be grateful for this, normally a noble would never do this with a peasant boy. Then she began to recite some sort of incantation. My name is Louise Françoise Leblanc de la Valliere. Pentagon that rules the 5 powers, bless this individual and make him my familiar. She cupped his cheeks and slowly brought her face close to his. What is she about to do, thought Naruto in a panic. Come on, stay still, she drew herself closer to him. Hey wait, hold on, are you going to? But we just met, isn't this too soon? Naruto's mind was a total mess in all this and couldn't put up any sort of resistance. Soon he felt her lips against his, causing his eyes to widen in shock, and his heart thumped hard against his chest, and it didn't slow down when she pulled away from him. It seems the contract servant has ended peacefully, said Colbert. What are you guys talking about? And what was anything that Naruto was about to say halted as his body began heating up and he felt like his body was on fire with the most intense on the back of his left hand. What did you do to me? It will be over soon, it's just the rune of the familiar being burned into you, said Louise. Naruto struggled to his feet and stumbled around as he gritted his teeth in pain from the heat. He never felt anything like this before. Not only that, it felt like his stomach was being cooked just like his left hand. He yelled out in pain as his body radiated a blue aura. Much to the surprise of everyone watching, before it receded he fell to the ground face first while losing consciousness. What was that? Said Colbert. Then he noticed some runes on the back of the boy's left hand and frowned as he didn't recognize them. I'll need to research about it at the archives. Naruto opened his eyes again to find himself staring at a ceiling and quickly sat up to find himself in a room, and he was sitting on a pile of hay. He looked through the window to see that it was nighttime. Where am I? What was that? Before I fainted, it felt like I was being cooked alive. So you're finally awake. Naruto turned to see Louise sitting at the bed and looking at him with a frown. I was wondering when you were ever going to wake up. Naruto jumped to his feet and pointed a finger at her. It's you. What did you do to me? Where am I? Why did you try to burn me? Aw, shut up. All you do is chirp. Then Louise recalled something. Oh right, I can simply use a silencing spell to shut you up. She brandished her wand and pointed it at him. Let's see. Answer VERYYYY. Notice the tracks and answer my requests. Boom. Naruto was sent flying into a wall and slumped to the floor with soot all over his body. Ow, what was that for? Louise looked at him in shock. I can understand you now. Huh? I can understand you too. Naruto was just as surprised. I was trying a silencing spell, Sai, and that failed too. So what's your name? Asked Louise. Oh, my Naruto Uzumaki, and I come from Konoha, said Naruto with pride. Konoha? I've never heard of such a place. What you mean? It's located at the Land of Fire. I haven't heard of that either. Naruto was flabbergasted. Just where am I and who are you? You're in Tristane of the land of Hokuginia. My name is Louise Françoise Leblanc de la Valliere, and I am your MSTR, while you are my familiar, even though I had no other choice. A familiar? Naruto recalled what happened and looked at the back his left hand to see some strange symbols. Just what is going on? Then he recalled one of Irika's teaching when he was paying attention at the time, when in an unknown territory, always seek out information from nearby residents. Right now the closest resident will be the pink-haired girl in front of him. Could you please tell me more about this place? Louise quirked an eyebrow in confusion. What do you mean by that? You should already know, as you're a commoner. This is my first time, so I don't really know about this place. Fine, I'll tell you. Louise proceeded to tell Naruto about the world and there being 5 countries known as Albion, Romalia, Gallia, Germania, and Tristane which they're currently on. He was also told of the government system whereby those capable of magic are treated as nobles while the others are viewed as commoners. She told him that she is currently a student at the Tristane Academy of Magic, which is where all nobles are trained to use magic, and what happened today was a ritual whereby a mage summons a creature from another universe to become a familiar and serve them eternally. As bored as Naruto is, he remained attentive in hopes that there was a way he could return, and so far he wasn't getting the relevant information. "Okay, I seem to get it sort of," said Naruto. "I won't allow a familiar respond to me in such a way." Louise sighed in disappointment. "Why is my familiar a peasant boy? I wanted something cool like a dragon or a griffin." "Hey, I'm not a peasant and plenty cool," Naruto retorted with a frown. "Be quiet, I wasn't talking to you." Louise turned around to pick up her wand and cast a spell on the boy, only to look back and see that the door was ajar. A familiar ran away. "You're kidding." Naruto was running through the hallway, then down the stairs with the scroll strapped back to his back. "I can't afford to hang around here, I gotta get back to the village and make Iruka-sensei is okay." He got to the next doorway and paused as he saw a boy with blonde curly hair having a conversation with a girl with long brown hair. "I'm good at making soufflés," said the girl with a tinge of pink on her cheeks. "I would love to try one," said the boy with a flourish of the rose in his hand. "Really?" "Of course, Katie. I wouldn't lie to your eyes." "Gish-sama," Katie swooned from the allure. "There's nothing hidden in my feelings for you." "Oh gg me, you only hear these of corny lines from movies." "I'm not gonna watch any more of this." Naruto passed by, hoping that they would ignore him in their moment, but the boy noticed him. "Isn't that the peasant that Louise summoned?" "Darn it." Naruto increased his walking pace. "In today's ritual?" "It caused quite a stir amongst the first years as well," said Katie, looking at Naruto, couldn't help but look at the whisker marks on his cheeks. "He had suddenly fainted and stopped moving, so it was quite troublesome for us." Goichi noticed that the boy was leaving. "Hold on, you. What does he want?" thought Naruto before turning around with a forced smile. "Yes. A peasant putting a noble to trouble, and not a word of thanks." "Oh, sorry about that, and thanks." Naruto turned away before muttering to himself, "What an arrogant JRK." Suddenly he heard footsteps from above and immediately knew who was coming. "Oh CRP," he took off as fast as he could right as Louise showed up panting. "Louise, your familiar just passed by," said Goichi. "Help me catch him, he just ran away," said Louise with a frown. "The familiar with whom you sealed a contract with?" "Nothing less from your familiar, Louise. Common sense doesn't apply to it. Don't be impressed by it, help me. Guess I have no other choice." Naruto continued to run down the hallways and staircases as he continued to look for the exit until he made it down to the ground floor. There he saw that redhead from earlier before sitting by the fountain next to a guy. He ignored that and looked around before seeing the doorway leading out the building. Sweet, an exit. Naruto happily ran past the couple towards the doorway with them looking at him in confusion. "That guy, he's the one that Louise the Zero," said the boy. "Yes, the peasant familiar," said the redhead. "There he is, over there." They turned to see Louise being followed by Goichi. "Hey, what are you guys doing?" "Oh, just listen to this." Goichi began as Louise went past him. "Knock it off, he's getting away," said Louise. Naruto was soon at the courtyard and running for the gateway. "I gotta get out of here and back to Konoha." Suddenly he was lifted into the air. "What the heck, what's going on here?" "Give yourself up, peasant." Naruto looked back to see Goichi pointing his rose towards him with Louise standing by. "This is the second time I've kept you afloat. What you doing? Put me down right now," Naruto demanded. "I think not, perhaps a little punishment is at hand." He began waving his rose to and fro with Naruto being tossed around. "Ha ha ha. A familiar that runs away from its MSTR. It's too funny," said the redhead while laughing. "I'm so gonna get back at that guy and huh." Naruto looked up to the night sky and was shocked to see a large blue moon and a smaller pink one next to it. "You gotta be kidding, I really am in another world. Look, I really need to get back to my home and make sure my teacher is okay after what happened with Mizuki team, said Naruto as he sat cross-legged on a heap of hay with a collar attached to his neck and a chain extending from it and held by Louise. I still don't believe it, for another world to exist is just unlikely, said Louise skeptically. Well, it's the truth, so just send me back the same way you brought me here. Next thing the blonde knew was that a cloth was thrown over him. He pulled it down to see that it was Louise's cloak and looked to see her unbuttoning her shirt. What are you doing? No matter who it's with or where they're from, the contract is absolute. And by the way, I'm changing for bed, said Louise, who is now in her sleeping wear, and tossed her clothes in Naruto's direction. The blonde quickly looked away with his eyes closed. Don't do that while I'm still here. Louise titled her head in confusion. Why? Are you trying to show that you're okay undressing in front of a guy? A guy? I see you nothing more than a familiar. Louise tossed the remainder of her clothes before putting on her pajamas and went to bed as she snapped her fingers for the lights to go off. By the way, I want you to wash those for me. Do you really expect me to wash these? Naruto's eyes strayed towards a particular clothing article and blushed upon seeing it. I don't know whether to be happy that no one is seeing me in this situation or annoyed that she's treating me lower than a human being. If you don't do those things, then don't expect me to take care of you. Cleaning, laundry, errands, those are to be expected of a familiar. If you do your work right, then I'll feed you, said Louise. What am I to you, a dog? Said Naruto angrily. He received no response and looked to see that the pinkette was fast asleep. Geez, what's with her? Now what am I gonna do? He glanced to his side to see the scroll of seals and suddenly got an idea. Of course, maybe something in the scroll can help me figure out a way back to the village. I can also learn some kick-ass jutsu from it too. Irika-sensei did say that a ninja must be prepared for anything. I wish I would have been listening to him more often instead of goofing around back then. Naruto opened the scroll and began reading through each of the jutsu. He took note of a special ability of the shadow clone jutsu and resolved to use it later once he found a good place to train. Then he came across something rather surprising, something about the art of seals from the Uzumaki clan. He had always thought that he was just a mere orphan, but now he learns that he actually belongs to a clan. But why didn't the third Hokage tell him about this? Well, he'll be asking him about this once he returns, but for now he's going to read more into this art and learn more about it. Naruto read more into the scroll until it was quite late, but then he realized that he would be needing ink and paper to practice more, so he went to sleep, albeit shivering from the cold air. The next morning, as the sun rose into the sky, Louise was suddenly roused from her sleep and looked up to see Naruto staring back at her as he placed her uniform for the day with a small frown, apparently displeased at having to do something like this. He dislikes pervs, and yet here he is doing something akin to it. Here are your clothes just like you asked, said Naruto. Oh right, you're the familiar that I summoned yesterday, said Louise drowsily. Where is my underwear? You go get those yourself. No way I'm gonna touch those and be labeled a perv. Then I guess you don't want any food then. Naruto gritted his teeth in frustration. They're in the bottom drawer. Growling fine. Naruto stomped towards the drawer and hesitantly took out a pair of panties before tossing it over to her. Now would you get this collar and chain off of me? He had tried to pick the lock but couldn't, so he figured that maybe it was enchanted with magic and so gave up. No. Look, I'm not going to run away since I don't know anything about this world, said Naruto. Sigh. Alright then, now I want you to dress me. No way I'm going to do that. You put on your own clothes. Nobles that have servants don't dress themselves, said Louise with annoyance. Well, you've got hands and feet like everyone else, so use it. Naruto refuted. Then I suppose you don't want to be fed and that the chain would remain on. Darn it. Naruto with great show of willpower and morality put on the girl's clothing on her, swearing that he would taking this secret to the grave with him. There, your clothes are put on, now get this chain off me. Alright already. Louise took out a key from her pocket and proceeded to unlock the collar. Naruto had a closer look and had to admit that she definitely looked pretty. If she fixed that foul mouth of hers, she might be cuter than Sakura, thought Naruto. Then he noticed that she was staring back at him. What are you looking at? Naruto quickly looked away. Nothing. Louise finally unlocked the collar, making Naruto feel more at ease. Come along. Where to? To breakfast, of course. Naruto strapped the scroll to his back, then followed the pinkette out of the dorm, then into the dining hall where the other students were already there, sitting along 3 long tables laden with food, which caused Naruto's stomach to rumble a bit. Come to think of it, he hadn't eaten since yesterday. Whoa, all this looked delicious. Haven't even seen these kind of food back home, said Naruto in awe of the food. Hurry and pull the chair back, you're really being inconsiderate, said Louise with a frown. Oh right, Naruto pulled the chair back for Louise to sit on before pushing it back into position, then went to sit on one next to her. Man, what kind of event is today for this nice spread? Anyways, I'm totally starved and Naruto noticed that Louise's eye was twitching and she was pointing downwards, which he followed to see a plate on the floor. A plate. Only nobles can sit here, peasants on the other hand sit on the floor, said Louise. Naruto just couldn't believe what he was hearing, not even in his home that the lowest person would have been treated like this. The ways of this world are too messed up and demeaning, what he wouldn't give to be glared at over this. The blonde grudgingly got off the chair and went to kneel on the floor and was offered a loaf of bread, which a bite immediately told that it was over a day old. After their prayers, the duo left the dining hall with the blonde wishing in his heart that he doesn't have to go through that every time. Normally familiars wait outside during a meal. I specifically let you stay with me, said Louise. More like making sure that I don't escape, even though I can't when I'm somewhere I have no proper idea of, thought Naruto. Then he looked ahead to see many students seated on outdoor tables and chairs while interacting with their familiars. What's going on over there? All the second-year students have a day off today. We're supposed to communicate with our freshly summoned familiars. Something I doubt you would want to do right now, Naruto deadpanned. He heard something and saw a giant red lizard with the tip of his tail on fire, causing him to help and jump back in shock. What the heck? Fufufu, is this the first time you've seen a salamander? Asked Kirchi amusedly. Well yeah, does it breathe fire or something? Asked Naruto with a bit of curiosity. Why of course, like all familiars, my little cutie flame obeys all of my orders and never run away. Naruto had a hunch that she was aiming that at Louise and couldn't help but feel a bit of shame for that. Hey, don't give me that, said Louise. You know, didn't you just sneak in a peasant that was walking around the area? You covered it up well with that explosion. That's not true. I made the summons properly. This guy just happens to show up and he's not even from around here. Well, he's very befitting for Louise the Zero. Kirchi walked away while laughing haughtily with her familiar following after her. Louise growled with anger. What's with that wench? Do they treat you like that every day? Asked Naruto with concern. He recalled how everyone was laughing at her yesterday and he has a feeling that it wasn't the first time she has been made fun of. Reminds him of how he was looked down upon back at the Ninja Academy. Louise turned towards him with a glare. Don't just stand there, bring me some tea at least. Oh okay. Naruto quickly walked away to escape from a potential tantrum. He walked around in hopes of finding someone who helped him get some tea for his MSTR. Naruto looked up to see a large purple eyeball floating right in front of him and staring in curiosity. Yuwa. He stumbled backwards and bumped into someone. The blonde turned around to apologize and saw that was a girl with black hair and dressed in a maid's uniform. I'm so sorry about that. The girl responded with a kind smile. No, it's alright. She bent down to pick up the pick of cake. Naruto was also trying to pick it up for her when their hands touched, which surprised them both. Excuse me. No, let me help. Naruto picked up the cake and placed it on the plate. Could you be the one that Miss Valier summoned? Asked the maid. Yeah, I am. How did you know? Asked Naruto. There were rumors that a peasant has been summoned as a familiar. I'm seriously not getting what this peasant and noble business is all about. Could you tell me more about it? Those that can use magic are nobles, and those that can't are peasants, the maid explained. That's how it is. Doesn't really seem fair at all, said Naruto with a frown. I'm guessing that you're a peasant since you can't use magic, right? You're correct, I'm Siesta and I have the honor of serving here, said the maid with a soft smile. Well, mine's Naruto Uzumaki, but you can just call me Naruto, Tebeo, said Naruto with a foxy grin, which Siesta found to be cute. Naruto-san. Sound like a strange name. Hey. Naruto's eyes twitched in recognition as he and Siesta turned to see Goichi sitting at a table with his mole familiar and another girl different from the one he saw yesterday with her tiny frog familiar. Isn't the cake ready? Coming right up. Siesta was about to approach when she was stopped by Naruto, who was smirking. Naruto-san. You leave this to me, I'll see you again for help to deliver tea to Louise, said Naruto, already coming up with a plan to get back at the arrogant boy as he took the platter from Siesta. Oh, okay then. Naruto approached the two and rolled his eyes when he was hearing the boy serenading the girl with those corny romance lines like he did with the other girl. He placed the cake on the table. Here's your cake. Oh, and bring some tea as well, said Goichi. Then he resumed with the wooing. I heard rumors that you were dating a first year recently, said Montmorency. Goichi scoffed in response. Such nonsense. There's nothing hidden behind my feelings for you. Is that so? They turned towards Naruto, who was looking over his shoulders with a smirk. Now that I think of it, the color of the capes represent the grades of classes. Which means that black capes are for second years and brown capes are for first years. That's the one I saw that girl wearing when she was talking to you last night. What is he talking about? Asked Montmorency with a frown. Goichi sweated a bit and tried to change the topic. Hurry up and go back to your business, waiter. Sorry, but I'm not a waiter. Naruto turned around with a sneer before walking away. You're the one Louise summoned, said Goichi in recognition. Thanks for the flying lessons, by the way. Naruto continued on his way when he saw the girl whom he recalled was called Katie, whom Goichi was talking to last night with a white bag in hand, and smiled. It's like someone was trying to help him get back at the snob. He looked back to see the very person attempting to escape, like he was going to allow that. Excuse me, but are you by any chance looking for Gish-sama? The girl brightened up upon hearing the question. Yes. Do you know where he is? He's right over there. Naruto pointed the way for her as she walked past him in a hurry. The blonde rubbed his hands together in glee. He, it's on now. I was looking for you, Gish-sama. I brought my handmade soufflé for the tea party which I told you about yesterday, said Katie with a smile. Goichi was sweating. Oh, that's very. Yesterday? Montmorency was galling at the blonde in suspicion. Well, that's. I'm happy for you. You were saying that you would be happy to have some. Naruto spoke up. He has every intention to prevent the snob from finding any way out of this situation. Be silent. Goichi demanded desperately. What do you mean? I'm just being truthful. Since I was passing by at that time, by now everyone was gathering round to find out what's going on. What's the meaning of this, Goichi? Montmorency demanded. What is it that you're going on about? You're going to found needless misunderstandings with these ladies. Goichi was now sweating by the gallons. What part of it is a misunderstanding when you're trying to hide the fact that you've been two-timing, said Naruto, smirking all the while. Two-timing? Katie was shocked to hear that. So there really was something going on with this first year. Montmorency was absolutely enraged at all this. Goichi tried to calm her down. Please, Montmorency, the perfume. Do contort your face, one as appealing as a rose from anger. You're terrible, said Katie, looking very saddened. You said I was the only one. In that case, please calm down. Liar. Smack. Goichi fell to the ground on his behind with a swollen handprint on his left cheek as the girls walked away with a huff and everyone was laughing at him. Naruto had never felt so satisfied ever since he came here. You just got dumped, Goichi. Well, you deserved what you just got, said a chubby boy with his owl familiar sitting on his shoulder. Goichi saw Naruto and realized that everything would have been fine if it weren't for his meddling, and became furious as he got to his feet and glared at the spiky-haired blonde. Peasant. It seems to me that you don't know how to pay respect to nobility, said Goichi. Where I came from, respect is to be earned, not given just like that, said Naruto with his arms crossed. In that case I challenge you to a duel, said Goichi while his rose towards Naruto, causing everyone around to gasp. A duel? Naruto titled his head in confusion. That's right, I challenge you to a duel. You're nothing but a peasant and a familiar to boot. Yet you've mocked me, and on top of that made two ladies cry. Last I checked, That handprint on your left cheek signifies the opposite of what you just said, said Naruto, getting everyone to laugh again, which angered Goichi even more. I'll be waiting at the Vestori Square, best prepare yourself for a beating. Goichi walked away with a huff. Geez, he's just as cocky as the team back home, Naruto muttered to himself. Louise then appeared before Naruto with a frown, having been waiting all this time for her familiar to bring the tea before deciding to look for him herself and heard everything. You. What are you doing? She grabbed his hand and proceeded to drag him. What do you mean? Asked Naruto. Why are you promising a fight to Duel without permission? So where are we going? We're going to apologize to Goichi, right now he might still forgive you. Hearing those words angered Naruto to the point that he stopped walking and pulled his hand away from Louise, much to her surprise. I won't do anything like that. You don't understand anything, peasants can't win against nobles, said Louise. She was taken aback when Naruto turned towards her with eyes full of anger. The one who doesn't understand is you. Naruto turned towards the remaining crowd. Can you tell me where the Vestori Square is? It's right over there, said the chubby noble. Malicorn. Louise wasn't liking this sort of encouragement. Thanks a lot, Naruto ran off. Wait. Louise ran after him, albeit noticing that he was running quite fast. He's just a familiar and yet he's always going off on his own. Within the headmaster's office in one of the towers, a small meeting was held between two of the admins and the headmaster himself. No previous case of a peasant familiar exist, said the headmaster. That's not the problem at hand, said Mr. Colbert. He opened the book in hand to a certain and held it out to them. I didn't recognize the familiar's rune which appeared on him, so I looked it up and it was strikingly similar to this. The page displayed an illustration of runes which matched that of the ones on Naruto's hand. The headmaster's eyes widened in recognition, then he turned towards the female teacher in the room. Sorry Mrs. Longueville, but could you please? Understood. The woman left the room but not before throwing a passing glance towards the book, then exiting the room. Naruto had arrived at the Vestori Square where Goichi was waiting along with a crowd. He figured that the guy gathered them there to show off to them, which reminds him all too much about the academy, which irritates him a bit from the memories. Louise had caught up with him and was panting a bit from exhaustion. Apparently Kirchi had also come to watch the spectacle alongside a girl with short blue hair and a pair of glasses while reading a book. Siesta was there too, as she was worried about Naruto. I praise you for actually showing up and not running off, said Goichi arrogantly. Naruto scoffed in response, don't expect me to take the cowardly route, that will never happen. That's enough Goichi, duels are forbidden. Louise spoke up. Only duels between nobles are forbidden, not ones against peasants. Naruto rolled his eyes at the obvious exploitation of a loophole, something he does with his pranks back at the village. But that's because nothing like this has ever happened. Louise, could it be that you're attracted to this peasant? Asked Goichi with a sneer. Louise was surprised at the sudden question and a pink tinge appeared on her cheeks. Who is? Knock it off. Who wants to sit and watch their familiar get beaten to a pulp? Thanks for the vote of confidence, said Naruto sarcastically. No matter what you say, the duel has already started. Goichi waved his rose for a petal to fall out onto the ground and suddenly transformed into a human-sized suit of armor with a staff in hand, much to Naruto's surprise. I am named Goichi the Brass. Therefore a brass golem, a Valkyrie, will be your opponent. The statue suddenly moved so quickly that Naruto wasn't able to react in time, as he was punched square in the gut and took a few steps back while smarting from the pain. He was a little pissed that he was taken by surprise like that. Louise was immediately by his side. It's nothing but natural for a mage to use magic in a duel, said Goichi arrogantly as Naruto looked up to glare at him. You get it now. Peasants can never win against nobles, said Louise. I thought I told you before, the one who doesn't understand is you. Naruto got back to his feet and looked ready to go. Oh, did I go too easy on you? Asked Goichi. More like you aren't trying hard enough. I've met many that punch harder than that, said Naruto with a smirk. Why are you still getting up, you idiot? Louise demanded. Because I've had enough. I was forcefully dragged from my home right after I protected my teacher from a traitor, and I don't know if he's alright. I was treated as nothing more than a dog and fed improperly ever since I came here. Now this guy is using me as something to vent on just because he was caught two-timing. My pride can only take so much and I'm not going to bow my head this time. Louise was surprised to hear all this. Then she saw him remove the scroll from his back and hold it out to her. Hold this, it's very important to me. There's still a chance for you to apologize, then I'll end this farce, said Goichi. I got something else in mind and it involves me knocking your lights out. Naruto rushed forwards and the Valkyrie intercepted to punch him once more, but Naruto was ready this time as he quickly sidestepped to evade the incoming punch. Then he performed a low sweep kick to knock it off balance before following up with a punch to the head to push it back a few feet away. The statue stood back up once more and went into the offensive whilst using the staff this time. Naruto was ducking and somersaulting to avoid the assault and countering with punches and kicks thanks to his evasive ability having been honed from the times he was being chased by the Chunin and Anbu after his pranks and never being caught with the exception of Irika. Naruto quickly seized the opportunity to perform a backflip to avoid a move and used his leg to kick the staff out of the statue's grip before catching the weapon and using it to smash the head clean off from its body, much to the shock of everyone around, especially Louise and Goichi, as they weren't expecting a peasant to actually fight back and destroy a Valkyrie. None of them, even Naruto himself, noticed that the runes on his hand were glowing. This can't be happening, it simply can't. Goichi waved his rose wand for more petals to fall off and create additional golems, which then charged towards the blonde to attack. Naruto used the staff and evasive ability to defend himself against multiple opponents before somersaulting away from them to catch a smaller breather before smirking. And what's so funny, peasant? Because you keep calling me a peasant when that's not what I am, said Naruto. Then what are you if you aren't anything more than a familiar? Naruto reached into his pocket and took out the headband which he had taken from Mizuki and put it on after removing the goggles from his forehead. I am Naruto Uzumaki, a ninja of the Hidden Leaf Village, and I will win this duel. Goichi scoffed in response, and how are you going to do that? I'm glad you asked, let me show just how. Naruto crossed the middle and index fingers of each hand together, Shadow Clone Jutsu. There a large puff of smoke which then reveal about 10 copies of Naruto, making everyone's jaw drop in shock and disbelief. Did he just use magic? How's that possible? Asked one of the noble in shock. Alright guys, let's get said Naruto. Roger boss. The clones rushed forward with their staves and engaged the golems as one by one they were being taken out. Naruto then targeted Goichi as he dashed towards him and used the staff to perform a pole vault to launch himself over his clones and the golems. Goichi took a few steps back in fear, but Naruto remained undeterred as he rushed forward with a fist reared back before lashing out with a punch. Goichi closed his eyes as the punch closed in and a gust of wind blew his hair back, but he didn't feel anything like pain and so opened his eyes slowly to see a fist merely inches from his nose and Naruto along with his clones which had dealt with the golem standing behind him staring at him intently. Do you give up or you want to continue? Asked Naruto. I yield. Goichi fell to his knees when Naruto stepped away from him. The nobles were mumbling in shock at what just happened. A peasant used some sort of magic to beat a noble, which is completely unheard of. To think that a noble would lose to a peasant. One thing that my teacher taught me was never to underestimate my opponent, something you did and paid for it, said Naruto with a smirk. Louise ran up to what she hopes is the original as the clones were giving each other high fives at their victory. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay, just a little tired and hungry, said Naruto, causing Louise to flinch as she recalled what he said earlier. But how did you do that? Like I told you that I came from another world where many people can do stuff like these and more, but we don't do this, nobles and peasants. CRP. Naruto stabbed the staff into the ground and let go of it, which made the glow in the runes fade away, and he suddenly felt very tired, which also made the clones disperse into smoke as well. What happened to them? Asked Louise confusedly. I must have dispelled them since I'm so tired. Naruto almost slumped over if not for Louise catching him. I think I'll need to rest. Okay, I'll take you back to my room. Naruto holstered the scroll back on as he was guided back to the dorm, unaware that his fight with Goichi had caught to the interest of many around him. Naruto didn't know when he fell asleep, but now he was wide awake and standing in what appears to be a passageway of a sewer. He looked around in confusion of what's going on when he suddenly heard the growl of beast echoing through the passage. Common sense would tell him to move away from the source of the sound, but something was enticing him to go, which he did. Soon Naruto found himself standing before a large gate with a paper with word written seal on it. Behind the gate he saw a pair of large red eyes. "So my container finally appears before me," a dark voice spoke from behind the gate. "Container?" Naruto was confused at first, then he realized what the voice as he looked up to the eyes, which was now accompanied by a fanged grin. "That means you're the Kyuubi. So you must be the Kyuubi no Kitsune," said Naruto as he gazed upon the fabled beast behind the cage in awe and fear from the aura and large red slitted eyes which were looking at him. "As if there is another giant being with 9 tails sealed inside of you besides me," said Kyuubi with a scoff. "Hey, what's with the attitude? You're acting just like that JRK Sasuke team," said Naruto angrily. He stopped in the middle of his rant when he heard growling and saw the fox looking angrier than himself. "Don't compare me to an Uchiha. I am nothing like the bearers of that accursed name," said the Kyuubi in anger. Naruto waved his hands in a placating manner. Whoa, calm down. I didn't know that there were others who disliked the team. Dislike is too tame of a word to describe the vast amount of hatred I hold for the Uchiha after what they had done to me." "What did they do to you besides being emos?" asked Naruto curiously. "That is none of your concern. I brought you here to talk about the mess you got us in. Interesting, but a mess nonetheless." "What mess?" "The fact that you ended up here in another world is exactly what I'm talking about." "Well, it wasn't my fault. That portal thingy appeared from out of nowhere and pulled me in," Naruto protested. The Kyuubi laid his head on his human-like paws, a situation which wouldn't have happened had you taken many things seriously instead of goofing around at the academy. "What are you talking about?" "I've been taking things seriously. The clone jutsu never seems to work the way I wanted it, no matter how many times I tried. And it never came across your mind to ask for help. I am well aware of the teachers who refuse to have anything to do with you except for one." Naruto looked down at that Irika-sensei. "You had been taking anything he tried to teach you for granted, and yet it was some of those very lessons which has been helping you so far. You aspire to be Hokage and yet go about it foolishly by messing around instead of preparing for the future. Such an attitude would get yourself and anyone around killed the moment you step out of the village." "But I beat Mizuki team easily with the shadow clone jutsu," Naruto responded angrily. "One thing he hates is being underestimated. That human was completely taken by surprise after underestimating you. It would have been a different story altogether had you gone against a more experienced opponent. As of now, you are naive and weak without strength. Strength which is needed if you want to protect yourself and anyone else, not to mention that if you die and I die as well," said Kurama. Naruto was silent for a few moments before speaking up in a calm voice. "So what is it you want me to do? I believe you came up with the answer to that question last 2 nights. Naruto's eyes widened upon realizing what he meant. "I can learn more jutsu from the scroll and train hard to become strong, then I'll find a way back to Konoha." "Good, you're not as dumb as you look," said the Kyuubi with a scoff. "You don't have to be so mean, but why are you helping me?" asked Naruto confusedly. "Don't think that I am doing this out of the kindness of my heart. It's like I said earlier before, if you die then I die as well, so I'm merely making sure that you live longer for my sake as well," Kyuubi retorted. "Is that all you have to say for me?" asked Naruto with his arms crossed. "Also try to find out more about those markings on your hands. They somehow have an influence on your body, mostly when you hold any kind of weapon. And another thing, make sure to learn a lot from the Uzumaki scrolls, as they will be of great use to you. Now get lost, I'm tired enough as it is." Kyuubi released a burst of chakra to send Naruto flying out of the sewer and disappearing from the mindscape before going to sleep. Naruto slowly opened his eyes and blinked a couple of times before sitting up. Where am I?" He looked around and realized where he is. "I'm in Louise's room, but why am I lying on her bed?" "Are you awake, Naruto-san?" a familiar voice spoke up, causing Naruto to turn and see Siesta entering the room carrying a platter of 2 loaves of bread and a glass of water. "I'm so glad to see you're alright, as you've been asleep for about a day, which is rather surprising as we expected you to take a longer time to recover." "Well, I've always been quick at recovering, that I hardly ever get sick. So what happened after I had passed out?" asked Naruto curiously. Miss Valier had appointed me to bring you a meal. Siesta looked to her right with Naruto following suit to see Louise asleep on a desk nearby with the scroll on it before her. She's been watching over you all this time without sleeping. She did? Naruto was surprised to hear that. No one had been this concerned about him besides the third Hokage and Irika. I guess she isn't all that bad. I never would have thought that you were capable of using magic, said Siesta. I didn't use magic, I used chakra instead, said Naruto. Chakra, what's that? Siesta tilted her head in confusion, something Naruto found to be cute. It is the combination of physical energy and spiritual energy which a ninja uses to perform many feats that we call jutsu like the one you saw yesterday, Naruto explained. Amazing, so do you know any more of these jutsu? Not yet, I'll need to do some training and learn some. I can show them to you when I've mastered a few. Oh, then I'll be looking forward to it. I'll take my leave so that you can rest some more. Okay, catch you later Siesta-chan. Naruto watched as the maid left the room and waited for a few moments before hopping off the bed, revealing to have recovered completely as he approached the pinkette. She's pretty cute, maybe more than Sakura-chan if she's nicer. He picked Louise up from the chair before placing her on the bed but left her clothes, not wanting to be labeled a perv whatsoever. Naruto sat on his heap of hay with the scroll unraveled on his knees as he read through the content. He carefully read on each jutsu to see which he should learn in the meantime and even discovered a special feature of the shadow clone jutsu which enables him to receive the memories of his clones once they've dispelled. Suddenly a deep gruff voice spoke up from out of nowhere, surprising the blonde. Hey BRT. Naruto jumped a bit with his heart pounding against his chest. That voice, Kyubi. Of course it's me. Better speak to me with your thoughts if you don't people to think that you're any more crazy than they think you are. Okay, so what's the matter, thought Naruto. Before you attempt to learn any more of those jutsu, there are some that you absolutely must not learn for they are forbidden. Another are a few exercises to help train you to control your chakra which I had observed before being sealed into you. What are these exercises? Better listen carefully because I am not in the mood to hold your hand every time. Also keep in mind that using your shadow clones will help you learn faster. Naruto listened attentively to the exercises and even wrote them down after taking some sheets of paper from Louise's desk before letting sleep take over with plans for training the next day. In the morning, Naruto woke up with a loud yawn and looked around only to come upon a strange sight. Louise was wide awake and dressed in her nightwear and there was a basket full of clothes next to the bed. The blonde ninja got up and approached her with a look of minor confusion. Good morning Louise-chan, and what's with the basket of clothes? Asked Naruto. It's laundry that piled up while you were bedridden after doing something stupid, said Louise stoically. You mean for me to wash them? Naruto took a glance at the basket and caught sight of a pair of pink lacy panties, causing him to look away. Of course, for it is one of the many duties of a familiar. You know, Siesta-chan told me about how you watched over me. I just wanted to say thanks for doing that. Naruto bowed in gratefulness. Louise looked at him as if he was stupid. Huh? Why are you thanking me? It's common sense for a familiar to be cared for by the MSTR to whom must always be grateful. Seems to me that you're still not aware about your position as a familiar. Now get to washing. Naruto growled in anger before walking to pick up the basket of laundry while grumbling. All you had to say was, "You're welcome, and here I thought you were cute." He left the room while closing the door behind him. Louise watched Naruto leave before laying down on her bed and began to think about the fight between him and Goichi. He is just a peasant and yet was able to beat a noble while using magic. If so, then why isn't he a noble? I'll need to ask him once he returns. Meanwhile, Naruto was outside the dormitory near one of the smaller fountains where he had one of his shadow clones wash the laundry while he was near one of the walls with a piece of paper in hand. Okay then, time to try out one of the training methods that the Kyubi had told me yesterday. Naruto read the paper. The tree climbing practice is a training method used to gain more skills with chakra control. The training involves focusing a fixed amount of chakra to the bottom of one's feet and using that to climb a tree without using any hands. If the stream of chakra is too weak, one will lose their footing and fall off, and if it's too strong, the user will be repelled from the tree and fall off. Naruto looked up towards the wall. Well, I don't see any trees around here, but these walls will have to do. Naruto crossed the middle and index fingers of each and created several shadow clones next to him. Okay guys, let's do this. Roger boss, the clones responded in chorus. Naruto and the clones proceeded to attempt the training exercise. There were multiple failed tries and mishaps due to using too little or too much chakra. Naruto would frequently dispel the clones to receive their memory and experience, then create more with them, making lesser mistakes by gradually finding the right amount of chakra to use. However, the blonde ninja ended up tiring himself out due to practicing the tree climbing and using the shadow clone jutsu multiple times, so he sat up against the wall while noting that his clone is just about finished with the laundry. Then he noticed the students exiting from the dorms with their familiars following them to the classrooms. And to think that I'm in the same boat as those creatures, Naruto muttered to himself. He heard footsteps approaching and looked to see Louise staring down at him with a frown on her face. What are you doing? Why aren't you washing the laundry like you're supposed to? Louise demanded for an answer. I am, or rather my clone is doing that and is just about done with it. Naruto pointed at the grumbling clone with Louise blinking in surprise. I'll need you to SCRT me to the classroom once you've hung them out to dry. You got that? Yeah, I heard you loud and clear, Naruto muttered lowly. He felt rested enough to go and help his clone out while Louise left with a huff. Neither of them noticed that Kirchi and her friend were looking at the blonde ninja with interest. Later on, Louise was in the classroom with the others as they attended a lecture by one of their teachers, but the pinkette wasn't pouring her entire attention to the lecture as she couldn't help but throw glances towards the spiky-haired familiar sitting next to her who was silently reading from a scroll. She tried to read some of the contents but couldn't make heads or tails of foreign language. Hey, what are you reading? Louise whispered lowly. Naruto looked up to respond. I'm reading about Fuinjutsu. Fuinjutsu? Is it about some sort of magic spell from that giant scroll of yours? It's not a magic spell, it's one of the many jutsu we use where I came from, like the one you saw me use. This is the first time I'm learning about this particular type, and yet it feels like I've known about it all along, said Naruto, looking genuinely confused. I'd like to ask for scrolls of blank paper and ink to practice on. Louise was about to respond when she saw Kirchi suddenly rise from her to speak up for everyone to hear. Mrs. Chevreuse, I hate to say this, but a certain student can't even use one element with a 0% rate of magical success is among us. Huh? Naruto blinked in confusion, then he noticed that every single student was looking straight at Louise. Why are they looking at her like that? Oh, I see now. Mrs. Chevreuse coughed loudly to try and resume classes. Naruto chose to remain silent until after class. Sure enough, the lecture ended and Louise was the first to exit the classroom, with Naruto being quick to follow. The walk was all too quiet until the ninja decided to break the silence. Louise, are you doing okay? Asked Naruto. The pinkette didn't reply. I now have a good idea why they call you Louise the Zero, but you shouldn't let that get to you. Believe me, I've been there too. At those, Louise rounded on Naruto with a look of anger. How would you know, huh? How would you know the feeling of being looked down on every time? Naruto simply smiled sadly. Back home at the academy, I was labeled the dead last because of my poor performance. I failed the graduation exams to become a ninja 3 times in a row, all because of one jutsu that was always in the exams, and it tripped me up every time. What jutsu was it? Asked Louise, feeling curious about his story. The clone jutsu. The clone jutsu, don't you mean the shadow clone jutsu, since I remember it was called before? The one I now use is the advanced version of it, because when I use it, my clones end up like this. Naruto formed a hand sign and there was a puff of smoke which dissipated to reveal 2 clones, but they were sprawled out on the ground while looking pale, which made Louise cringe at the sight of them before they disappeared. Because of that, everyone laughed at me and proclaimed me a failure. The pinkette was surprised at what she just heard. It's just like what she's going through. What did you do whenever they say that about you? Naruto responded with a foxy grin. I chose not to give up and worked harder every time to prove that they were wrong and that I am worth something. Don't let anyone tell you what you can or can't do. The one who has the final say in things is yourself. Louise couldn't find any words to say to this. This boy has gone through the same thing and yet still remains confident to move past his failures with success as his main target. She was snapped out of her thoughts when she heard Naruto call out to her cheerfully. "When we get back to the dorm, I'm gonna show you something I recently learnt. It will definitely wow you," said Naruto excitedly. "Really? Let's see if you can impress me," said Louise with a huff. Naruto simply shrugged his shoulders and went on ahead, not seeing the small smile on her lips before she followed after him. They arrived at her room in the dormitory as she to sit on the bed and faced, "Now then, what is this amazing thing you want to show me? First, do you have a blank scroll along with an ink bottle I could use?" "I'll need it for what I'm about to do," said Naruto. "Hold on a moment." Louise went to her desk drawer and brought out the requested items to give to him. "This better be worth it." "It sure will." Naruto unrolled the scroll on the ground, then dipped the ink brush into the ink bottle, then he proceeded to draw intricate markings on the scroll with a steady hand. Louise was in awe at the sight of the inscriptions, as she has never seen anything like them before. Soon enough, Naruto was done drawing the symbols. "There, all done. Now to give it some time to dry." "Is that really all? The artwork is rather unique, but was it just this you wanted to show me?" asked Louise. "Not yet, let's wait for it to dry first," said Naruto, carrying the scroll to the window and letting it dry quickly, which didn't take all that long before bringing it back inside. "Now then, do you have anything like an umbrella or something?" "Well, there's my books." Louise went to her desk and brought out a stack of books. "These will do." Naruto took the books and placed them on the inscriptions, then he weaved through a set of hand signs. "Seal." There was a puff of smoke which dissipated to reveal that the books are gone, surprising Louise, who jumped up from her bed. "What just happened to my books? Where did they go?" asked Louise confusedly. Naruto picked up the scroll with one hand and pointed at it. "I stored them inside of the scroll." "But how's that possible?" Fuinjutsu means sealing techniques. It is the art of sealing many things like objects, energy, and quite possibly living beings within another object, Naruto explained to the pinkette, who was in awe yet again. "I never would have thought that such a thing is possible, but how do you get it out?" asked Louise. "Oh, that's easy." Naruto placed the unraveled scroll on the ground and put a hand onto the seal before channeling chakra into it, causing the books to appear. "I already stored the scroll of seals into storage seal on my arm, so I won't have to worry about anyone trying to get their hands on it." Naruto rolled back the sleeve of his right arm to reveal yet another seal on it. "But won't the ink wash off if water were to touch it?" "Normally yes, but I drew the matrix with both my BLD and chakra, so it will never be erased," said Naruto, "not to mention it really hurt when my clones were drawing it on me." "So is there more to this than just storing things?" "Yeah, there are, but I'll need to read more from the scrolls then practice them," said Naruto. Then he got up. "If you don't mind, I want to go out for a walk." "I won't be long." "Okay, but you better not run," said Louise. Naruto rolled his eyes. "I already said that I'm not from around here, so where will I run off to?" He left the room and was about to climb down the stairs when he came upon a familiar person. "Siesta-chan." Said girl blinked in confusion. "Naruto-san, what are you doing out here?" "Well, I thought to take a walk and dash." Naruto's stomach rumbled, causing him to blush in embarrassment. "Now I remember that I hadn't eaten today." Siesta giggled in response. "Then I have just the solution for that, plus they also wanted to meet you." "They?" Naruto tilted his head to the side and blinked in confusion. The blonde ninja soon found himself at the kitchen gorging on some food given to him by the chef and his co-workers. Naruto found the food to be quite delicious despite it not being ramen. The poor blonde cried mentally at the thought of never eating the food of the gods ever again. "Man, this is some good eating," said Naruto after slurping a spoonful of soup. "Sorry about them being leftovers, but you can eat as much as you want." "Our fist," said the chef cheerfully. "Our fist?" asked Naruto. "That's right, you're a peasant just like us and yet was able to defeat a noble with skills and a bit of your own magic. You're the pride of us peasants, our fist." Naruto rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. "It's not that big of a deal, I just didn't like that he tried to take out his frustrations on me because he didn't want to admit that he was too timing." The chef laughed out loud. "This kid is quite humble, the total opposite of those stupid nobles." the workers nodded in agreement, seeing as the blonde wasn't bragging in the least. "But I gotta say that they're pretty lucky to get to eat tasty food like this every day," said Naruto. Then he felt an arm around his neck and turned to see that it was the chef. "When it come to me, Marto the head chef, anything will end up tasting exquisite." "That is magic in and of itself," said Marto. "Whoa, you remind me of another chef who said something like that. I wish you two could meet and I bet you would make some awesome food," said Naruto. "That's our fist. Ever humble, please let me kiss you." Naruto blinked at that statement. Wait, what? He turned to see the chef lean close with his puckered lips, causing the blonde to panic and switch places with a log while standing far away with the plate of food in hand, surprising everyone. "Thanks, but I'll pass on the man kisses and simply return the favor another time," said Naruto. He could hear the Kyuubi snickering at his reaction. "Such modesty, as expected," said Marto with a smirk before returning to his cooking with some of the staff following after him to help. Later on, Naruto bade them good night and left with Siesta accompanying him. They both stopped to gaze upon the moons illuminating the sky for some time without saying a word. Then Siesta was the one to break the awkward silence. "I hope that you would come again, every one of them is a fan of yours," said Siesta. "I definitely will, I'm always up for making new friends. You know, I was a little worried about what was going to happen to me when I ended up here, but now I feel a lot more confident," said Naruto with a smile. Naruto-san, I'm hoping that I could have a long conversation with you sometime," said Siesta with a gentle smile. Naruto was taken aback with a pink tinge on his cheeks. This is the first time that a girl actually wants to hang around, unlike back home where he was shunned and thought of as a nuisance. This caused the blonde to feel a bit shy, but he responded nonetheless. Sure, I did say that I would show you some jutsu once I've learnt them," said Naruto. "That you did? Well, I better head back to Louise-chan or she would think that I ran away from her. Good night." Night. Naruto walked back into the dormitory and climbed up the stairs to the third where Louise's room is with a smile on his face. There was some ups and downs, but most of today was pretty okay to him. Siesta is so nice, she's way different compared to the girls back home, huh? He saw a hand of dark complexion sticking out of an open door and waving as if beckoning him to approach. The blonde ninja looked around and saw that he was the only one being called. His ever-curious nature took over as he gradually approached the door when the hand suddenly reached out to grab the collar of his jacket and pulled him inside by surprise as he tumbled to the wooden floor. Naruto sat up to see he was in a darkened room with several candlelight and the moon shining through the window. "Where am I?" Naruto muttered. "Welcome." Naruto turned towards the voice only for his face to turn beet red upon seeing Kirchi standing before him while dressed in a very alluring lingerie with her familiar flame sitting nearby. "Welcome to my suite, Naruto Uzumaki, if that is the correct way to say your name." Okay, is there something you want from me?" asked Naruto. "Naruto-kun, I know that it's something that shouldn't be, but my by-name is Fever as I tend to burn like a torch," said Kirchi. Okay. He didn't get what she was talking about. "You understand? What I'm trying to say is," Kirchi went down on all fours and leaned her face forward close to Naruto, who began to feel rather nervous. "I'm in love with you." Naruto's eyes widened and his jaw dropped open. "Huh. You were so cool when you defeated Guiche that my heart began pounding like crazy, and I know that you're one that could put it at ease." The redhead held one of Naruto's hands in hers and leaned even further to kiss him. "Kirchi," a voice suddenly spoke, causing them to turn round and saw a male hovering outside the open window. "Oh, Styx," said Kirchi in surprise. "I came by because you didn't show up at our promised time," said Styx with a frown. "Then change the time to 2 hours from now." "That's not the deal." Kirchi rolled her eyes before picking up her wand and pointing it at Styx as a tongue of flame from one of the candles transformed into a snake before shooting forward and struck Styx, sending falling down to the ground below. "Who was that?" asked Naruto. "Just a friend," Kirchi answered. "Now as I was sa-. Kirchi, another male student was hovering at the window. "Who is that man?" "Tonight, I want you to burn up with Marg. He too got knocked down to the ground by a flaming snake." "Another friend?" "That's right, I-. Kirchi, this time, 3 males were at the window. "What are you doing?" You said you didn't have any particular lover. She must be a very good friend to a lot of males, said Kyubi sarcastically. How about you three wait until after 6 hours, said Kirchi with a sweat drop. It will be morning by then, the boys complained. The redhead let out a sigh of annoyance. Flame, the salamander rose up to launch a blast of fire from its mouth to send the trio crashing to the ground below. Falling and burning, a painful combo, thought Naruto with a sweat drop, then he was pushed to the ground with Kirchi on top of him. Like I said before, I love you and ready to give you proof, said Kirchi. Naruto looked straight into her eyes for a few moments before finally responding, Kirchi, I don't think we should do this. The redhead blinked in confusion. Why not? Is because of my friend's interference. Just what is it you like about me? Your strength and how gallant you were in your duel with Guiche shows that you are more than just a mere peasant. Do you know what my favorite food is? My hobbies, my likes and dislikes, what makes me happy or sad? Do you really know anything about me? Kirchi didn't know how to respond to his question. Naruto crawled backwards to sit up. Just as you don't know much about me, I don't know much about you either. Even if you said that you love me, would you truly be happy if I responded to your feelings half-heartedly? There's no doubt that you're appealing, especially your hair, but I don't want you to do something that might hurt you for the rest of your life. The guilt could very well kill me. Kirchi looked down to the ground with the locks of her hair covering her eyes from sight. So you're rejecting me? Naruto placed his hands on her shoulders. I'd rather that we become friends first. This is too sudden for me and I believe that we should get to know each other. I want to know you for who you are, just like you would need to know me. That way you can decide if you really like me or not. Kirchi was stunned, speechless. This boy is completely different from the others she usually leads around. She looked into his eyes and could see that he absolutely meant what he said and felt a strange sense of heat radiate from within her. Kirchi then spoke with a small smile on her lips. Okay. Naruto-kun, we'll try it your way. I am rather curious about, to be honest, said Kirchi. Naruto rubbed the back of his head. Yeah, well, I gotta go now, we could meet up some other time. Of course, Naruto-kun, I bid you good night. Same to you. Naruto got up and left the room with Kirchi looking at the closed door and let out a deep sigh as she laid on her bed and put out the candles with a wave of her wand. Naruto Uzumaki, a truly odd but interesting familiar. Acknowledged my beauty but wishes to know more about me. I could say the same for him. Meanwhile, Naruto finally arrived at Louise's room and entered to find said person awake with a look of annoyance. What took you so long? You said you were just going for a walk, said Louise. Naruto sat on his heap of hay. Sorry, I got sidetracked along the way before getting here, was able to learn a couple of things along the way. Whatever, just don't take too long again. It is inappropriate for a familiar to be away from the MSTR for too long. Louise laid down and waved her wand to put out the lights. Naruto laid down as well with a loud yawn. I'll keep that in mind. Then he went to sleep in order to awaken the next day. Even though the BRT is dense, he listens to his heart and not the head between his legs like certain males. Reminds me of him, Kyubi muttered within the mindscape before going back to sleep. You need weapons? Asked Louise confusedly as she sat on the edge of the bed in her nightwear after waking up that morning to hear Naruto's request. The blonde ninja nodded in affirmation. It's pretty much a given. I need to train in using weapons alongside my jutsu so I can manage my chakra more effectively. Does your jutsu really take that much energy? It depends on the level of the jutsu and the amount of chakra used on it. That's why I've been practicing on chakra control first so I don't end up wasting chakra when in a fight. It's no surprise, considering that you possess massive amounts of chakra which surpasses some of your kages, said Kyubi with a snort. Louise hummed thoughtfully. Well, since this day of the week is Void Day, we can go to town to check for weapons suitable for you. Thanks, Louise. At the other part of the dorm, Kirchi was sitting before the mirror and making sure that her appearance is pristine to easily attract the opposite gender. Her current thoughts were on the spiky blonde familiar of Louise. His interaction with her last night made him all the more interesting in her eyes. He truly is different from the other boys I've met so far. Kirchi heard the sound of galloping and looked out the window to see Louise riding on a horse and Naruto was running next to her and keeping pace. "Just get on the horse already, the town's far from here," said Louise with a frown. "Thanks, but I'll be fine, this is a part of my training," said Naruto, not looking tired in the least. "Geez, you're very strange. They seem to be heading to town, I wonder what they're up to." Kirchi hummed thoughtfully and then smiled, "Now I'm really curious, I'll follow them and, just happen to run into them, there. But I'll need some help though." A small bespectacled girl with short light blue hair and wearing the academy's uniform was quietly sitting on a bed in her room and reading when she heard the sound of footsteps heading her way. She reached for the long staff wrapped in a light blue ribbon and waved it while muttering, "Answer Relin." At that moment, Kirchi came bursting in and appeared to be speaking at the top of her voice but no sound could be heard. Apparently, Tabitha had cast a silencing spell to negate sound around her so she could resume reading. She eventually completed a chapter before undoing the spell to hear what she had to say. "We're going out today so get ready," said Kirchi. Tabitha simply shook her head, "Void day. I know that you take your void days seriously, but you see someone has caught my attention and is holding it hostage. However, the Valier has taken him to who knows where with her. You understand, right?" Tabitha shook her head again, "I see, you won't budge unless I explain everything. I want to chase those two because they're headed somewhere, but I can't catch up without help from your familiar. Please help me." Tabitha closed her book and nodded, "Okay." Kirchi smiled happily at that, "You understand. Thank you." Moments later, they were riding atop Tabitha's familiar, which is a wind dragon, and were currently flying in the air with great speed. Meanwhile, Naruto and Louise had finally arrived at the town with the latter leading them around. Naruto surveyed the area, seeing many going about their own business, marketing wares, going in and out of shops. It reminded him plenty of the shopping district back in Konoha, making the blonde ninja feel rather homesick. He snapped out of his thoughts when he heard Louise speak. "We're here, this is the weapons shop. Let's go inside and see what we can get for you." The duo went inside to see a man standing behind a counter who perked up upon seeing their entry. "Hello there and welcome to my shop, how may I help you?" asked the shopkeeper. "I'm looking for a weapon for my familiar here." Louise pointed at Naruto, who was looking at the swords hanging from the walls. "Is that so?" "Later, I've been hearing it's a fad for even the royalty to be equipping their servants with weapons." "So, which is it you want?" asked the buck-toothed shopkeeper. Naruto spoke up, "Do you have any throwing knives?" He would have asked for kunai but got the feeling that he wouldn't have those. "Sure I do, wait a moment." He went inside the store room and came back with several knives, throwing knife from Dark Souls 3 and placed them on the counter. "Here you go." "Why are you asking for these, wouldn't a sword be better?" asked Louise confusedly. Naruto didn't say anything as he picked up one of the knives and held it in his hand, tossing it a few times to sense the weight. He suddenly spun round and threw the knife. Both the shopkeeper and Louise heard a thump and saw the knife embed deeply into one of the wooden barrels containing spears before looking at Naruto, who was smiling in approval. "These will do, I'd like 24 of these," said Naruto. The shopkeeper nodded dumbly, "Yes sure, is there anything else?" "Let's see the swords you have," said Louise. They proceeded to go through the swords, but Naruto seemed to have problems with them. The broadswords felt odd in his hands, especially since they are double-edged. The same went for the long swords, especially with the length. The greatsword's weight put him off, and the rapier felt much too light to him. Naruto took note of something in one of the sword barrels and went to pick it up, seeing it to be a single-edged falchion sword, but the appearance tells one that it had seen better days. "Isn't this a junk sword?" asked Louise skeptically. "Not exactly, it's been around for a long time, but there's plenty of use in it once you tidy it up a bit," said the shopkeeper. Naruto looked at the sword in his hand, not noticing the glyph on his hand glow faintly as if in resonance. "I'll take it, I'd like it if you could add a whetstone too." "Sure thing." The shopkeeper seemed a bit too happy to be selling the sword, something Naruto found odd. They eventually exited from the shop with Naruto's newly purchased equipment being the sword in a sheath and holstered to his back, the throwing knives packed into leather waist pouch strapped around his waist along with the whetstone. inside as well. None of them were aware of Kirchi and Tabitha watching them from afar with the former glaring at them. That girl came here to woo Naruto by buying him a present. How conceited of her, I won't let this by, said Kirchi with fire in her eyes. Later that day as the sun was setting, Louise was on her bed trying to read her book but was actually sneaking glances at Naruto who was gently sharpening the sword gently and smoothly on the whetstone as instructed by the Kyuubi. There was a knock on the door so Naruto sent a shadow clone to open it while he continues to sharpen the blade. The clone opened the door to reveal Kirchi holding a wrapped-up bundle with Tabitha standing behind her. Zerbst, what are you doing here? Asked Louise with a frown. I'm here to give something to Naruto as a sign of friendship. Kirchi handed over the bundle to Naruto who unwrapped it and was surprised along with Louise to see a golden sword in his hands. This sword, Naruto muttered lowly. You followed us, didn't you? That sword was from the weapons shop, said Louise angrily. Which makes me wonder why you didn't buy such a cheap sword but a rusted piece of metal. Tabitha looked at Kirchi with a quirked eyebrow. The sword originally cost 1,000 gold but Kirchi used her feminine charms to make the shopkeeper sell to her for 500 gold. That sword is from Germania and all the best swords and women come from Germania. Not like a Tristain woman like you would understand. Louise scoffed in response, I bet that you trifled with so many men in Germania that nobody bothered themselves to deal with you, and why you came to study abroad in a neighboring country. This angered Kirchi to point her wand at Louise who responded in kind, wasn't that a mouthful? It was the truth. Suddenly, the wands were pulled from their hands and clattered to the floor with the girls turning to see Tabitha putting away her staff to resume reading the book in hand. No magic indoors, said Tabitha stoically. Then we'll let Naruto decide, said Kirchi. Naruto pointed at himself, me? That's right, said Louise. Actually Kirchi-san, the shopkeeper tried to sell the sword to me but it didn't even feel right in my hands and I was the one who chose this sword, said Naruto. Oh, is that so? Kirchi looked disappointed while Louise smiled in victory. But it doesn't mean that I don't appreciate the gift though, I'll happily accept it as a friend. Thank you Kirchi. You're most welcome. Kirchi was now smiling while Louise growled in anger. You dare try to pamper my familiar? I really hate you Kirchi, said Louise. Kirchi frowned in return, I feel the same way. Naruto waved his hands in a placating manner, please calm down, you two dash. Shut up you stupid women, a voice yelled out right at where Naruto was sitting. Stupid women. Kirchi and Louise turned towards Naruto with looks of barely suppressed rage on their faces. It wasn't me, I didn't say that. Naruto strongly denied but they didn't appear to believe him, then Tabitha spoke up. The sword is talking, said Tabitha. Everyone looked at the slightly rusted sword and noticed the metal piece close to the hilt was moving like a pair of lips. Here I was enjoying a nice massage from the spiky-haired blondie to the point of almost going back to sleep and you two ruined my happy time. How would you like it if someone did that to you? Isn't that an intelligent sword, a sword with its own wisdom? Asked Kirchi in disbelief. You bought another weird item. Louise protested, I didn't know since it didn't say anything until now, I'm going to return this creepy thing right now. Hey kiddo, do you know what year it is or rather where this place is? Asked the sword. Not really, I'm not exactly from around here to be honest, Naruto responded. Can't blame ya, the energy I'm sensing from your body pretty much explains it. What's your name? My name's Naruto Uzumaki, what's yours? I'm Derflinger, nice to meet you partner. Mind if you continue that relaxing massage? The sword introduced itself. Sure, I don't mind. I could use some help during training, said Naruto with a smile then he resumed sharpening it. Oh dear, it looks like he plans on keeping it, said Kirchi with a sad sigh. Why is it that I always get the strange ones? Louise slumped in mild depression. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 2. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Hussbek on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video till then goodbye.